Jozef Toth, welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. I'm delighted to have you on. How are you today?
Hello, Nick. Well, thank you very much for inviting me and having me here. I'm very well, and I hope everyone else who is watching is doing also well. And I'm excited to get into it.
Great stuff. So, Jozef, one of the things that really sort of took my attention with you, I think I saw you initially on Instagram, was the first place I saw you. And I just heard this accent and I was like, wait a minute, this guy looks interesting, like talking about property with this accent. And then I looked into you a little bit further. So tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, where do you come from and how did you end up in Scotland?
All right. Okay, so that's an interesting short story. As you can hear, I'm not Scottish. However, I try to copy the accent, but somehow not fully successfully yet. But anyway, I came from Slovakia originally. So I'm Slovak. That's Eastern Europe, Czechoslovakia, Prague, Bratislava. We used to be Czechoslovakia before. I've been all over the world. I've been 6 years in Denmark, in Copenhagen, and I had a business there, which I sold in 2016. And then we moved with my wife and son to New Zealand for a year, where we spent all our money and decided to come back to Europe. And we chose the Edinburgh because we had some friends here, and it's a country where English-speaking country better than Scandinavian, and so we just came here.
And what sort of business were you involved in originally?
You know what? We had a marketing company with print and delivery of newspapers and marketing materials. So newspapers, leaflets, and stuff like that in Copenhagen. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So that kind of brings us on to today then. So like obviously I've seen your content. You seem like you're a very busy guy in the property. So how did you get involved in this whole property world then? Rewind back the clock and tell us the story.
All right. Well, basically, when we came to Scotland, the first thing we did, as any other probably Eastern European people who come here, we tried to deliver or make some money with physical work. So me and my wife, we had a cleaning business at the start, and somehow that business grew quite well. And in 2 years, we had grown it to about 20 staff and about 120 regular clients. And I remember a year ago, I was in a situation that the business was well, just I was physically and mentally ill. It was too much for me. And I was thinking about something else which makes sense for long term. Because to be honest, anything I did in past was fine, but required so much work and effort. And it's enough that you lose one key person in the company, or the regulation changes and so on, and then suddenly you are back down to zero. So I was looking for a solution. I wanted to do something that makes sense for long term, not only for a year and 2 years, but even for 20, 30 years, for the rest of my life, basically. And I had a friend who was always talking about properties. I remember we were at the West End at one weekend on a party, and he was showing me, Joseph, you see, this is 300,000 flat. This is £1 million flat. We need to invest in something like that. And I told him, look, I'm just a cleaner. Come on, I know nothing about properties. Don't talk to me about this because I really don't know. But then he got me to a crash course. Samuel Leeds. The very popular,
controversial Samuel Leeds.
Very controversial Samuel Leeds. So I went for a crash course, and yes, it was a little bit too good to be true, but I kind of knew that deal sourcing, finding properties, and being kind of like an estate agent, it's something that was always close to me. I kind of tried to be an estate agent in New Zealand. It didn't work out very well. So I went for it, and I made a decision. We found a lady who replaced me in the company last year, this time. And I went full blast. I paid training. I decided that I will do whatever it takes to kind of make it work. So That's how I came into the properties. And I'm not a property investor myself. You know, I am in Scotland 3 years. I'm here 3 years. I still live in a rental property. So I know when you go for a crash course, not only Samuel Leeds, but any other training companies, they present you with so many strategies. And suddenly everything is so cool. You can do holiday lets, refurbishments, buy to lets, all money, or no money down deals, and I don't know what else. But I stick with sourcing properties because I know that's an activity that I can actively do as a job, earn a living with it, and then in the meantime learn all the aspects of the investment side of the property business, because for the future, of course, I want to have my own portfolio. So sourcing was something very real for me, and it kind of worked out.
So I want to stop you there for a minute. That's really interesting. And I want to talk a little bit about the transition from the cleaning business, because a lot of people find themselves stuck in, and you were a business owner, but a lot of people are in the 9 to 5, stuck in the rat race. They want to be the property investor, but they just can't get the time to go and do the viewings and all this. How did you manage to, I presume you were out doing all the cleaning and stuff. You were really heavily involved. You're working crazy hours. How did you manage to kind of transition across there from the cleaning to give yourself the time to put into the property?
Yeah, so basically the cleaning for me was double full-time. Like imagine I was the only manager in the company, so all the communication from the cleaners and from the clients came to me. And there are problems, who ever done a cleaning business or a similar service company where you have employees will know that there are problems every single day. So I was very much full-time in it. And the way how I transitioned myself is basically I replaced myself with someone. And what we did before I came to property, several months before, I already knew that it will happen sooner or later. I need to replace myself. So I was working on systems. So we created a system for scheduling, for the cleaners rota, all these administrative tasks we tried to automatize. So once I replace myself, the new person will know exactly what to do. So and then there was a lady in our group. She was doing cleaning and she was really good. She was one of those that whenever I asked her for help, she never said no, and I really respected that.
Yeah.
And so we gave her a chance, and she was with me for 2 weeks in my office. We used to have an office in Broomhouse, which we canceled just before the lockdown, which was good. And she was very eager to have a management position, and that's how she took over my activity in the cleaning. I would say it's always a little bit of risk because things can go wrong, but we just took the risk, and it somehow ended up well,
It sounds very familiar to my own story because I have a letting agency business, but it's like pretty much was myself in the business until just recently. In the last couple of weeks, I took somebody on. But to get to that stage where you can actually afford somebody, it took a lot of sweat, blood, and tears, a lot of work to get to that point. And presumably you were in that situation as well, because you have to obviously think to yourself, well, wait a minute, I'm earning enough money to feed my family and keep things going here. But when I take somebody on, I need to pay them a full-time salary. And then you pretty much go back to zero again.
That's absolutely right. That's the little problem you need to handle as a business owner, because of course we had to pay her, and I tell you like this, it kind of motivated me that, okay, now if I pay all this money for training, now I have a manager, so our income to our family is lower than used to be. So I have to make it happen. There is no plan B. And also I have told everyone, I remember a year ago this time, I used to go very much for every single property networking event, PIN meetings, and any other events that there be, which were really great, fantastic people. I must say, I love the Scottish group. I love the Scottish group, so much support. But I told everyone that I will be a Am I back somewhere?
Sorry, I just lost you there. Yeah.
So I'm back here. So
Yeah.
I remember Bill McWilliam, you know Bill from Edinburgh.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember several meetings. He came to me, I think 3 or 4 times, and always asked me, so what are you doing in property? So I was a little nobody. He didn't remember me for 3 or 4 times. I told him, you know what, I'm sourcing properties, and I had to be persistent and show up several times until actually that guy remembered who I am, you know? So it was a little bit funny at the beginning.
That's an
And
interesting point right there. Okay, so is this when you're going to like? Did you go to like a networking event or something like that? Then you met a few people. Did you feel intimidated in these surroundings? Not intimidated, but did you feel like a bit uncomfortable? Because people struggle with that.
very much, because first of all, my English vocabulary is not the best. I usually talk the same words all around the day. And then second, I was really a nobody. So I don't have capital to invest. I never owned properties. I'm here 3 years. It was 2 years last year. So, but I think um, I think at somewhere I don't really care. You know,
Yeah.
I made the decision that I'm going to source properties, and I want everyone know that this is what I'm doing, and we will see. Somehow I will get there. So what I want to say that at the beginning, really, because I said to everyone what I'm doing, I couldn't back off. I didn't leave myself a plan B. That I couldn't just go to a networking event, and I actually met few people who are like that. One day they are deal sourcers, another day they are doing this, da da da. No. I kept to be, the same.
Okay, so I think that a point I like to make to people is there are a lot of arseholes in property, right? And when you go to these networking events, you see them, in the shiny suits and all that with the swagger, and you're like, what the fuck? Just I just treat everybody the same, right? And I've been involved in property a long time, right? I've been investing in property a long time. But I've always got time for everybody, and I don't want to come across as some arrogant idiot. I'm always learning every day. Like I say it on the group, we're learning. I'm going to learn from you today as well.
And and me from you. Nick, I must say I got so much support. Like really, the most experienced, and I would even say the richest property investors here are one of the best people who will sit with you. Of course, you cannot be a time waster and go around and change your mind all the time. But when they see that you are really trying to actually make something work, I got so much support. And really, the Scottish group, well, we are not that big market, so people kind of know each other. I've been a couple of times in Glasgow, but in Edinburgh, I believe we know each other. And it's the best group, if anyone is starting up, just get out there and meet people and talk with them, because especially people with experience, they like to share their knowledge. Property is the only business so far I have come across where people help each other. They want to be successful between each other, because it's, everyone has a piece of cake.
Okay, so I guess it was unfair for me to say that there's loads of assholes in property, because there's loads of good people as well. And there's loads of good people who are willing to share the information, like you say, and you'll find it on like our Scottish Property Podcast group. There's loads of people that chip in with helpful videos and property tours. And, if you follow yourself on social media as well, like I've always seen that you're trying to share some value and help people and help people along the way. So that kind of brings me on to the education sort of thing and the training, because you said that you obviously attended this seminar, Samuel Leeds. Why was it? It was interesting because there's Scottish based obviously training companies, and obviously Samuel Leeds is the English kind of based thing.
Yes.
Was there any kind of, because you're living in Scotland, I would think to myself, why did he not go in the Scotland one? Why did he go down to England? Is that anything reason or?
No. So look, you know how it was. Basically, he has the best marketing. He cut through to me through social media.
Yeah.
And I kept watching his videos, and I liked his energy. I didn't really understand all about the subject he was talking about, but I just liked him as a person. He's really energical guy. And also, for some reason, it was more interesting for me to go down to England. I didn't know at that point that most of my investors who are buying properties from me will be from England. And from the network I got into through the education. I didn't know it at that point, but it was kind of cool. You know, we drive down to Birmingham. We went with my wife twice. I actually been on 3 crash courses, and it's not only Samuel Leeds. I had another mentor for 3 months who was teaching me intensively, and he was also from England. And it's basically just because I was not in contact with any other Scottish gurus. You know, I didn't see. For example, there is a guy, Paul McFadden, really like, I like his videos. I believe he's a proper trainer. I believe that, but I never heard about him before, you know?
Right, so it was really, he must have really hit with the market and must have just got through to you through YouTube, and then that's how you kind of got into it. So I have my own view on the whole property training thing. I obviously tell people to do their own due diligence and stuff like that. If you're going to spend thousands and thousands of pounds, it's a big decision, right? So I don't have an issue with the content that they like teach you, right? That's fine. I'm sure there's lots of valuable stuff that they give you over the weekend. Where I kind of like have a bit of an issue, and where there's created the controversy in this whole training business, is where there seems to be a lot of kind of vulnerable people that go where they are at a desperate point in their life, where like nothing's working for them. You know, they're in a mess, and they see property as the get out and the way that they can live, you know, stress-free, money problems-free. And, you know, you see stories of people taking out these courses on student loans and credit cards and things like that. That's kind of like a thing that kind of sits a bit badly. But then on the other side of things, then you think to yourself, well, is it these gurus or these people who provide these courses, is it their responsibility to like check everybody out? I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a business. So you've been through the full process, you've been through the system. What was your experience when you were sitting in the room with these hundreds of people? You know, kind of what was the vibe?
So let's just say, when I went there for the first time, I had a decision. I'm not going to pay for anything because I wasn't ready yet to transition myself from the cleaning. I still came back home and continued with my cleaning. It was July last year.
So this was the free. This was the free event initially. The free. Right. Okay.
3 days, or was it 2 days or 3 days? Like really intensive, really high energy. I loved it. You know, people say bad things about it, but I am also that guy. I like high energy, and I believe.
But did you have to stand up and do the clapping and all that?
Yes. Well, let's go. You know, I believe your energy, your how you are mentally positioned, it will reflect your physical life, and things will happen kind of that way. If you're negative and you know, try to find the problem in everything, then what can you expect? How your business will go, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, for the first course, I haven't paid anything. I came home, and then I went again for the next one. And that time I wanted to do more. So I went there with some little bit of money with my friend, and I kind of knew that I will sign up for some training, but only that much that I can afford. And in the end, I ended up paying £1,700, me and my friend, for a 3-day, full-day seminar where they teach each strategy. They go through every single strategy, and you learn the basic points about every strategy. You know, you get a book, you get some tools, you get some contracts, you get some tools to start up or have a better idea. So, of course, there is further training, which I haven't go for. I personally would never pay £12,000 for a training or £20,000. I think it's just too much, or at least considering my budget.
How can anything be worth that much money? You know, like in terms of stuff that you can find on the internet for free. You know, I don't know. I mean, like, a lot of people are telling me that because it fascinates me. I've never been on a one of these property training course, so I like to learn as much as I can about these things. But some people are telling me that it was money well spent, that they spent like 20 grand because they said, if
Yeah.
they don't know what they don't know. And also it gave them that kind of kickstart to say, well, I need to make this work because I've gone all in. I pushed all this money into it. I need to do this.
Yes. So look, I know specifically a lady. She's doing very well in property. She spent over 20,000 for a mentorship and all the training. And she also told me it was her best decision with her husband because now I think they own about 15 properties already. I don't know, but I haven't think about what other people think about this. I was just, I don't have that much money.
Yeah.
And if I have 10 or 12,000, I would probably buy my first refurb, maybe try Bridget, or I would use it in property, just as my own opinion. So, but however, there are courses that are not that expensive. And I would say anyone who is starting up, it's necessary to do some kind of training, not only because of the knowledge, but because of the network. Especially deal sourcing is a kind of work where it's very much trust-based and based on who do you know, in what network you are in. Compared to a cleaning business, in cleaning, you deliver some leaflets, customer calls you, I need cleaning, that's all. But when I source properties, which investor will pay me, expensive sourcing fees just because he knows I'm sourcing? I need to have my reputation. I need to be in the right network. So all that is very much helpful to do some trainings because you get into that network there. And I would say Samuel Leeds, and I standed positively with Samuel the whole way, even when he had this big drama around the BBC and all the stuff. Because I experienced it myself, and I would say any other training company is doing the same. Of course, when you come for a free event, you can't expect that they will just leave you, let you go home. Okay, thank you. We paid for the venue and all the stuff. Of course, they want to sell to you. It's business,
I think if you go in with the right attitudes, like you're obviously a smart guy, right? And you're highly driven. I think where people will start bad mouthing these courses is if they think that it's a golden ticket, they're going to give you the secret formula to basically become rich overnight. And that's obviously, and it's partly their own fault. It's the property training company's own fault because of the marketing that they put out to people is selling the dream a lot of the time. So what do you expect?
Yes. Kind of, yes. It's really, it is controversial. And I know it would be best if there is more regulations, especially when people pay high amounts of money. Can they really afford it? It has to be more regulated, of course. It was very positive. In my case, I know that there are people who aren't happy. I know that. So it's a discussion. My best friends from Glasgow, deal sourcers also, they hate Samuel Leeds, and we have always that.
Listen, regardless of what you think about Samuel Leeds, right? There's one thing that's got to be said for the guy. He must put a huge amount of work into his, marketing his YouTube videos. He must work solidly, the guy. He must have a huge work ethic, that's for sure. Whether he's doing it ethically or not, it's a different story.
Exactly. And, again, as a business owner, think about it. Once you become so big, you have thousands of people there, of course, not everything will go right. So,
exactly. As a letting agent, I look at some of if you go on Google reviews, for example, you look at some of the really big agencies in Glasgow that have got 800 properties, and you see there's so many bad reviews. But if you think about it, it's actually a small minority of the overall picture. Yeah.
That's
so,
right.
So that's how it kind of works. But listen, I can tell from speaking to you today that you're highly motivated. You're definitely got an entrepreneurial spirit at heart. I can feel it, the energy coming through you. So I think probably regardless of whether you went on the training course or not, I think you would be doing it anyway, no?
That's right. That's right. To be honest, I tell you another story which wasn't so positive. It was positive because I took the positivity out of it somehow. So I went for a 3 months mentorship with a guy from England who teaches rent to HMO.
Right. Okay. So let's say straight away, right? Rent to HMO. So HMO doesn't really exist that much in Scotland, right?
No. So I spent, and think about this, I spent 1 month 42 viewings, 42 offers to letting agencies that I want to rent their HMOs for a lower price than advertise in Edinburgh. That was the most funniest thing I could ever done, because it just doesn't work. And they were looking at me like, are you out of your mind? Why the heck I would give you 700 lower than I advertise, you know? I just did what my trainer said, you know? It works down in England. England,
Yeah.
beautiful place for rent to HMOs. I know several serious and successful entrepreneurs who are doing rent-to-rent HMOs. It's not passive income, it's a business, but it works. In Scotland, it doesn't. So anyway, that mentor, he of course wanted to help me. And I want to emphasize this. I believe any serious mentor or training company, even if they make mistakes, in the end of the day, they do what they say. They cannot just fake it out, you know. So that guy, he was very nice. He wanted to help me. He saw that rent-to-rent is not really the thing in Scotland. So we turned the strategy for holiday lets, and I got my first holiday let property on a rent-to-rent basis in Edinburgh while I was with him. And it was, you know, right now we are friends. We talk to each other, chat, and so on. And even if it was very hard and it didn't make sense, we took something positive out from it in the end.
Well, it's pretty much the same thing, isn't it? You know, the whole strategy is really the same, rent to rent. It's just whether you do it with the serviced accommodation or the HMO.
Exactly. So in the end, it was fine. At this day, I have actually 3 rent-to-rent properties. And we survived the lockdown.
Okay.
I won't say that we weren't profitable during the lockdown.
I'm gonna get onto that in a second, what you're actually doing in property now. But just, there was something you said there about when you were going around speaking to letting agencies and landlords, asking about the rent to rent HMO. What sort of responses were you getting, just out of interest, from people?
For example, I have sent an offer to a letting agent, a lady. She was very nice. We had a good chat, and her response was, "Joseph, perfect, but I never mentioned the landlord is willing to go lower with the rent. Like, that's the rent. Why are you offering lower?" You know, they didn't understand what I'm trying to achieve.
That's part of the problem, isn't it? With when you're dealing, people don't understand. But why have you got any thoughts about why HMO? You know, I mean, presumably you were thinking about taking an HMO and then renting out individually to professionals or something like that, or?
Yes. So taking a HMO for a fixed monthly rent, and then trying to make profit with renting the rooms out to individuals and managing the property. Several reasons why it cannot work. First is legislation. If you do rent-to-rent HMO in Scotland, you can manage HMOs, but you need to be a registered letting agent.
Yeah.
So it's a requirement in order to, which is actually really good because it sets the standard quite high compared to England. So anyone who manages HMOs has to be a registered and accredited letting agent. Fine. So the other thing is the market. Edinburgh, it's, you know, there is no need for landlords to go anywhere lower the market value of the property, the market rent, because they can get it easier. Well, now might be a little bit different situation with the lockdown and COVID, but landlords don't have a problem to get the market value for the property, you know?
Yeah.
So right now, I actually have a solution how you can do rent-to-rent HMO. You can do it legally, but only if you do it through a letting agent. So for example, if you are a letting agent and you have your landlord with a HMO, we can have between us a contract that I will supply, or I will have my corporate contracted tenants in the place. Whereas you still manage the HMO, but I can have my people there. We can make a contract like that. But again, it won't work because of the price. In order for me to make profit, the rent should be, you know, lower than the owner would normally get.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so you've been on the Samuel Leeds course. You've paid your £1,700. You've got some understanding now of different strategies. I'm presuming your head's like filled with all this stuff. Like, where do I go next? Then you get the 3-month mentorship to kind of focus you in specifically. and then you decided to get your first deals. So your first deals were the rent to serviced apartments, is that right?
Right, correct.
Yeah, so just explain to us a little bit about, how that went about. Was that difficult to find these rent to essays?
So it was what we have been doing. We've been visiting um, advertised properties, speaking with landlords, and we were trying to find someone who would actually help us. I explained this is my first property. It's not that I have much experience, but I really want to do it. I give my personal guarantee that in case the rent is not paid, I'm personally liable to pay you the rent. And it was actually a bit funny because the first property that we got, imagine we came there with my wife, there was the landlord, and I went for my standard pitch with the contract in the hand. And the landlord said, okay. And then my wife said, okay, think about it. We will come back to you tomorrow. And the landlord was like, no, we can do it now. And we were both standing like, really?
You were like,
really?
you couldn't believe it. You were like, this is too easy. So where was that? Where was that property? Whereabouts was that?
So that property is in Leeds, at North Junction Street.
Okay.
Not the best area for SA. It was my first one. Of course, we made mistakes, but interestingly enough, because the property is fully renovated, it's very stylish, very beautiful inside. We actually have very good reviews, and it's constantly booked. We are not making very much profit there, but if we are not in lockdown, we talk about maybe 300 profit a month after paying off all the expenses. So it's okay, it's okay.
Well, you've got the cleaning company. You've got the cleaning covered because you've got the cleaning company. Or do you use other people for that?
Other people. Our cleaning company never did holiday lets.
Don't do holiday lets. Interesting, right? So I did serviced apartments myself for a while, right? And a lot of people, obviously, when they come to you and speak, they see the serviced apartments as generating a high cash flow. They're very interested, From my experience, and I had maybe 5 at one time, is quite labor intensive in terms of, for me, it was managing the whole process because the guests only come for short periods of time and they've got high expectations. There's a lot of competition. You're in the hospitality industry and everything needs to be done now, like that was...
That's right.
That was what kind of stressed me out and it pissed me off in the end, and the final straw for me was like, they were coming in late at night and then they were like, the battery's not working in the TV remote and stuff like that. And then I had one flat that had bed bugs in it, right? So it got shut down and then I couldn't get rid of the bed bugs and then they leave bad reviews and you're only as good as your last review, right? So like people are looking at the reviews going, bed bugs? I'm not staying in that place. That looks terrible.
That's right. And that's also the reason why I'm not planning to operate SAs. I have 3 at the moment and that's good enough. Actually, at the beginning, a little bit of cash, a little bit of experience. I like to have those flats. They are beautiful experience, But to be honest, at the beginning, we managed everything ourselves and we even cleaned ourselves the flats. So we done everything ourselves. Okay. Right now, we have cleaners who help us. And basically, you need good cleaners. That's all you need. Like the lady who helped us, she is amazing. And because of her, I have kind of easy life. Because, here and there, answer some question. Oh, and what I do, anytime we have a question from a guest, I put it into the description. Like, where is the hair dryer?
Yeah.
Okay, photo into the description.
Systemize, yeah.
Systemize. Otherwise, you're going to get bombarded with questions.
I would say that, like you touched on it, you hit the nail on the head with the cleaner. The cleaner is your most important asset. If you can get a good cleaner, like I had a really good one. She used to take the laundry. She used to take it to her house and clean it. Because it was only 3, 4 or something, she used to manage it. Obviously, if you're going to bigger level, then you're going to have to get a laundry company. But if you can take that stress away, it's good. Anyway, so that's probably enough from the essay. Let me bring you on to your sourcing business, because the majority of the content that I see you posting on Instagram, etc., is to do with deal sourcing, right? So obviously, this is another strategy that they teach that people are really interested in. let me know a bit of background about that. I see sometimes as well you're involved with some other people as well. Is there a few of you in this business?
So basically, yes. So I am a full-time sourcing agent.
Okay.
I don't promote myself with holiday lets. Those 3 properties I have because it's kind of a hobby. You know, I like it, I enjoy it. But I'm not a holiday let operator. I'm a full-time sourcing agent, and I do nothing else, just source properties. I don't even project manage refurbishments, or I don't manage other people's properties. I'm not a letting agent. Because why I'm saying is because when you source a property, you know, there are several other aspects you could do. The investor will need a tenant. You can help him to tenant the property. You can help him to manage the refurb. You can, and investors will ask you to do these things for them because they trust you, they have good experience with you. And I see other deal sourcers going that direction. They start up as deal sourcers and they end up being project managers for refurbs. They open a letting agency, or, you know, they go into the other aspects of the business. So I don't. I only source properties. And at the moment, I work with, we cooperate with one of our investors. So we source 2 properties for him. He is local, David from, he's just here in East Calder. Really great guy. And so what happened, both of the properties were refurbishments. And so he had set up a perfect team around him to do the refurbs. And we seen, okay, so David, you are really good with refurbs. He has a background to being working in Howdens, I think, so he knows the trades. So we said, okay, why not? We will bring in investors and deals, and then we help them to hands-off manage the properties through your refurb team. So now we are kind of like in a partnership where every refurbishment that we find, David is managing with his team for the investor, you know. So it's a very symbiotic cooperation, and we are very happy. Like, everyone involved is a win-win for everyone, you know.
I love that. I love that clarity, to be honest with you. You know, like, it's part of probably my downfall is I've probably tried to do too many things. I think you're absolutely right. I think, you know, I concentrate on the property management as my main business. I have done project management for landlords, for refurbs and all that. And it is very, very difficult because there's too many things going on. So I respect that about you, that you've decided that you're just going to concentrate on one thing and do it well. So hats off.
So, and you know, when you ask, of course, it's not only me. Focus sourcing is not only Jozef. I have Jacob with me since April. We work really well together, very easy cooperation. He's helping finding deals and analyzing the deals. He's actually the real deal sourcer in our team, I must say, because when he say that that's a deal, I know it's a deal.
And did he go, how did you, like, you've been friends with him for a while, did he come on the course with you, or what? How did you get into partnership?
No, so that's also a funny thing, because right after I had this video with Samuel, you know, I had an interview with him, I started to get messages and bombarded with other deal sourcers who wants to do deal sourcing. Suddenly everyone wanted to do deal sourcing.
Right.
And of course I wanted to work with someone, not being alone, but maybe get some help. And Jacob was that guy who came up with production. He came up with a deal. When I asked him to do something, he quickly did it. It was always very easy, straightforward, and he kept doing it. We haven't even talked about any salary or any splits or anything. He just wanted to learn. And so that's how we started to work together. To be honest, he is a guy on university in Edinburgh, but because of the lockdown, he went down to England to his family. And we never actually met in person. He's coming up first time next week, Monday, and we already sold together, I don't know how. Are we back?
We're back.
Yeah. So it's Jacob, and now the further development for the sourcing business is to involve more deal sourcers. I don't know, do you want me to talk about this? Is a little bit long subject because you have to be
the compliance. Yeah, if you can just like give us I think there's probably 5 things or something like that. If you can give us what you need to get.
So I was very much, I digged into it with my solicitor. and with other deal sourcers, and we wanted to find out what's the real story here about all this compliance stuff. So basically, if a sourcing agent pass on a property to an investor, the sourcing agent must take some responsibility for the deal he pass on, right? Compliance-wise, we're talking about being registered with the ombudsman or the property redress scheme. You have to have your anti-money laundering supervision with HMRC. You have to have your ICO registration for the data protection, right? So because investors will give you bank statements and IDs, so all that have to be in place. Also, you need to have insurance, professional indemnity insurance, in case, for example, if I sell a deal which is absolutely rubbish and is not as I said, here I must say is never 100%, you know, but with best of our knowledge, we try to present whatever is there in real life. So if I sell a bad deal, then the client has a right to get, what do you call it? You know, he can get some money back from the insurance, you know, if he can claim it against me, you know.
Okay.
But, so here, what I would like to say, how does it work with other sourcers? Because of course, when you are starting up as a deal sourcer, to pay for a compliance, it's about 1,500, these days, £2,000, because the insurance is quite high. It went up for about, I think, £500 or £600 a year. It's quite expensive. So how we are doing it is that we involve other people who are not compliant. It can be anyone. It can be anybody who has some affinity to properties and wants to help. And the way how we do it is that we take the details of a potential lead. We analyze it ourselves, do any steps ourselves, me and Jacob, and then we decide if it's a deal and pass it through the investor. And the person who had gave us a lead gets a referral fee.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, I am taking full responsibility for that specific property deal, and the person who helped can still help with, you know, on a way with a referral fee. So.
Yeah, so basically they don't need to be, what you're saying is they can still be a deal sourcer, but they don't need to go through all the cost and all the hassle of getting the full compliance. It's something they can do on the side as a side kind of income.
They can help, you know, bring in leads, not only to me, but to every other sourcing agent. And I hear a lot of controversy here, who need to be compliant and who, I tell you like this, it's a business. If the investor is unhappy, if you really make something bad to the investor, no contracts will help you. You know, you are, can I say, fucked, because your reputation is over. No one is ever going to do business with you.
I think that, oh, you've obviously done the research into it and all that, but you see these people on, you know, Facebook groups and all that, and generally it's the same people with a very negative approach and stuff like that. And they're always trying to squash people down by saying, no, you need to be like financial, FCA or FSA approved or something like that, you know, if you're dealing in like real estate deals and all that. My understanding is that if you're putting like investment funds together, like investing in real estate, then obviously if it's a fund and you're managing a fund, then obviously that's a different ball game altogether. Yeah,
totally. So maybe it's also good to mention what is the core of deal sourcing. It's a little bit unclear subject for many people. It can be questionable what exactly a deal sourcer is doing. So look, it's a simple service where we, with our expertise, find a property that potentially can be right for an investment, meaning that that property can give you some return. And then we connect that property with an investor who is maybe busy, or maybe who doesn't really have the knowledge to find that kind of deals. And because we make the connection between the property and the investor, we get our sourcing fee, which is basically a payment for the time, effort, and the expertise that we have put into that deal. You know, it's very simple. And I find it, because I work with investors on bespoke basis too, there are several reasons why people hire deal sourcers. maybe only because they are busy. They just need another stream of potential deals that come to them. Many investors use several sources and they need to see different kind of deals so they can choose, you know. I had an investor who is, it's interesting, but we almost with every investor, we kind of have more like a friend relationship. We kind of become friends because we work together for a longer time. A person who doesn't know where to invest his money. Maybe he has 100K, he wants to get into the property, but he doesn't know what to do with it. So if you are a good deal sourcer, then, and you have experience, you have done some deals, you can explain the risk levels. You can go into what's a buy to let, how much risk is involved there, what's a refurbishment, and so on. You can help the investor to choose the right strategy for him. So that's another added value as a deal sourcer, because
I think a lot of people get too hung up on the this whole thing about the below market value, BMV number one, and also the direct to vendor number two. And I don't think really, I mean, from my experience, I've got plenty of clients on my letting agency, landlords that just want good, high yielding, good return property. You know, they're quite happy to pay home report market value for it, as long as it makes sense. They don't want the money just tied up in the bank.
That's right. That's right. I would say, you know, the local Scottish group, the group of investors in Scotland, for me, we more work on a cooperation about the leads for the potential deals. So with the local investors, I don't really have a sourcing agent investor cooperation. It's more that we are looking into the deals together. And several times happened that a local investor had a deal that he couldn't take on, and I sold it to my investor from England or from abroad. Okay. So my clientele...
And you do like a what, 50-50 split or something on the fee?
Yes, or we agreed, depends on the deal. Depends on the deal. So my clientele, I must say, actually, I do have some clients from Scotland. I don't say no, actually I do. Mm-hmm. But most of them are from England or even from France, from Hong Kong, from Lithuania. And the value I'm adding there is that they have someone locally here in person who takes full responsibility for their project. So they don't have to be here. They can trust me with all the steps, you know. And that's a huge value any deal sourcer can add to an abroad investor who likes to buy properties in Scotland, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I heard you talking on your Instagram, on your Facebook Live recently about how you know, you've been trying with Facebook advertising and, you know, this wasn't working. And, you know, actually a couple of your adverts were popping up on my screen. And I was like, oh, wow, look, he's doing like he's paying for the advertising. So what's your experience there with the Facebook ads? Because one of the things, obviously, people want to know is how to find deals. Yeah. So is this a strategy that works, or is it, you know, you put a lot of money in?
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about this. Is also very important. So, okay, I can just say from my experience, maybe other deal sourcers have different other ways how to do it, but I would say when anyone starts up as a deal sourcer, most important are deals. So all you need to do is find deals, and then slowly the investors will come, and then later on you're going to be busy, you're going to be taking care for investors, and you're going to have other sourcers to bring you deals. That's the natural process of deal sourcing. But so I tried several advertisements and none of them worked. And the reason why, I think my marketing is mostly turned to the investors, not really for, like, for example, helping people with their property when they are in a difficult situation. I know a company, I know a lady, she's doing really well. Mm-hmm. And her marketing is amazing. It's based on how they help people in difficult situation to find a solution for their property.
Yeah, like they call it the 3Ds: debt, divorce, or death.
and she's putting lots of effort and creativity into her marketing. I know she's doing really well. I don't really have time for, so I try to find something that's quick and will bring in leads, you know. So Facebook wasn't really working for a long time, but just because my ad wasn't really good.
Like, how much money are you talking about putting in here? What sort of spend are you talking?
I do about 300-400 a month.
That's quite a lot. I mean, that's quite a bit.
300-400 a month, but that's a split because I also advertise for investors, and I also advertise for leads. And now with the newest ad where I just simply say what I'm doing and that I can help to sell the property quick, I actually get some leads. Now we have 8 leads, and I think Jacob is calling them around. We have 2 viewings next week, and I already had a deal, off-market deal from an ad few months ago. There was a property in Mochlin, near to Kilmarnock. Anyway, so I don't do leaflets anymore. I only do Facebook.
Interesting. And obviously, I'm trying to do the numbers here, right? So, like, what would you potentially, if you got a direct to vendor deal, right, and it was quite a good deal, and it was, you managed to negotiate a bit off the value and all that, what sort of fee are we talking about here? $3,000 or something like that, or what?
Yes.
Roundabout, right? So
Yeah.
you're paying 300. Say you're paying £300 a month on the Facebook ads, and you're doing this for the year. You know, you're talking about £3,500. If you can just get one deal there over the year, then you've pretty much broke even. So I guess if you look at it that way and keep the consistency up, then hopefully it will work over the long term.
I mean, financially, it's not bad. Financially, really, it's pretty good, I must say, you know.
Yeah.
And investors are happy to pay. We sold the deal 3 weeks ago for 6,000. It was 6,000.
Wow.
Investor happily paid.
Okay.
Actually,
because what was the value in that deal? Presumably it was a negotiation that you did.
So this was through a friend. It was a friend who secured the property for himself. But in the meantime, he went with another deal, and he haven't had the funds to go forward with this property. He is a property investor himself from Edinburgh, and he called me up if I can help him to sell the deal, because it's a great deal and it would be shame to just lose it. The point there was that it was in Edinburgh, and it was 25,000 below the home report.
Right, which is, in this market, is pretty much unheard of, right? Because everything's going like 30,000, 40,000 pounds over.
So pretty much impossible deal. And you see, the investor happily paid 6,000. Why? Because with that, he's already buying equity. So there was 25,000 below the home report. On the open market, that property would go way above the home report. So it was a great deal for him, you know.
Really interesting, mate. Anyway, we're probably coming to the end of our hour. So what's the plans for you for the future, man? You invest in property yourself, or?
Yeah, you know what? For the next year, I plan to have a very strong track record for sourced deals. I see myself, I don't have 5-year plans. I always say I'm happy if I survive this week, you know. I don't have very long-term plans, but I would like to have a very strong track record of sold deals. I'm working now with David. He's refurbishing those properties. So I want to see that it works, this cooperation.
Yeah.
And I want to build my team. Again, automatize the business, put in systems, allow other deal sourcers to come and help me to grow the company and bring in deals, and work on the business itself. You know, I want to see Focus Sourcing as a proper agency, not just like some, you know, Jozef. I want to see Focus Sourcing, maybe have an office in the city future, maybe have some agents, work on the market. There's lots of work to do, lots of work. And then whenever I have saved up enough money to invest in properties, my strategy will be, of course, refurbishments, BRRR, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm going to buy my first property cash. No bridging, no hassle. I'm going to buy cash, refurbish, and refinance and rent, and then keep doing it until the rest of my life, probably.
Cool, man. You don't do any of these kind of like, joint venture or angel investors where you're, accumulating with the loans and stuff, no?
No. And like, for example, David, my partner here who is doing the refurbs, so he is the main investor.
Okay.
Like, he can take on angel investors. Maybe I just mentioned his company name, David Philip property investments. And he can help with angel investors, bridgings and all the stuff. So I don't figure at the moment as a property investor. I figure as an agent.
Yeah, I love it, man. You've got complete clarity there. Like listen, I found this chat brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. It's been entertaining. It's been educational. And I thank you very much for joining us on the Scottish Property Podcast. I'm just, it's a shame that Stephen wasn't here, because Stephen would have really enjoyed the chat as well, I'm sure. But he can listen back to it when he's in his car. So
cool.
Just Nick, to finish up, where can people find you? Like, where do you, I mean, I know you're big on Instagram, like, you like it there. Where can people?
You see, my company is Focus Sourcing. So I'm present on social media. I have a website, focus-sourcing.co.uk. But I think these days social media is important. So and I am happy to talk with anyone. I learn myself a lot every day from all the other people too. So I'm pretty chatty, pretty present. If I have time, I reply to everyone, and it would be great to make some new connections, So Nick, thank you also very much for having me here. The little Eastern European guy. I hope I have added some little value here to all the real property investors. And I will keep following your podcast and say hello to your colleague. And thank you very much. Yeah.
Look forward to following your progress, Jozef. I'm sure you're going to fly because you've got I can tell you've got the energy, you've got the work ethic, and I'm sure you'll do really well. So I wish you all the best, man. Take care.
Thank you very much. See you. Bye-bye.